So it's worth mentioning the angle that you approach the movie could seriously affect your enjoyment. I understand that a lot of people love De Niro and Pacino's crime films of old. Heat, Casino, Donnie Brasco, Goodfellas, Once Upon a Time in America, Scarface, you name it. And to have grown up with these films and then watched a slow, long movie about an old man in a wheelchair falling down in his hallway after going to the toilet or forgetting which order his medication is in can be a bit of a shock. When the man who made the roller coaster thriller-minute ride of Goodfellas made this film, it can be perplexing. But let me tell you the angle I came from when I watched it. As well as being a fan of those legendary movies, I also regularly watched De Niro and Pacino's crappy output of the 2000s. Movies like Righteous Kill, Jack and Jill, and all sorts of horror I had to endure to desperately search for a decent film these guys did. It got to a point where I sat back and thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? Watching all these shitty films, genuinely wasting my time, gaining no enjoyment. The actors don't care, either that or they've lost their touch. So I stopped watching altogether, hoping that this abstract crime film called The Irishman, De Niro talked about once every 2 years, would actually get made. And then when it came out, it wasn't what I expected, but it floored me. These guys really did have it, and they all brought their A game for one last dance, one last great performance from each legend. There's a romanticism about the film that is undeniable. It's De Niro, it's Pacino, it's Pesci in the same film for the first and only time, and they were all the best thing about it, giving incredible performances. The film zones in on the three leads as it goes on, like it knows why you're here, and it delivers in that regard. So let's address some things. Firstly, it can't be ignored that there are some people who hate this movie or are very loud and proud in telling us they hate it, for reasons which have nothing to do with the film itself. They were rooting for it to fail for unrelated reasons. I mean, some complaints are downright weird. I've heard some people annoyed that Pesci played against the type, and we didn't get to see classic sweary Pesci. But at the same time, people complained that all Al Pacino did was swear and scream. It was like a caricature of a Pacino performance. Well, which one is it? Do you want them doing what they're known for, or doing something different? Then there are those people who call the movie slow, long, and boring. I mean, boring is subjective. I found Once Upon a Time in Hollywood boring, each to their own. And the length. I mean, come on. People were so giddy when they found out the movie was 3.5 hours long. They were like, wow, a Scorsese film that long with De Niro, Pacino, Pesci. And if you can sit through a 4-hour Snyder cut of Justice League, or binge watch an entire season of a Netflix show in one sitting, you can surely take this. But if you think the movie is slow, it may be because you approached it thinking that Scorsese was going to make Goodfellas again. He spoke a lot about how this movie wouldn't be Goodfellas. I mean, why would it be? He made that film 30 years ago. He's a different person now. The movie is about an old man reflecting on a wasted life, on his values, thinking about death and the afterlife, which is where Scorsese is now. The Irishman is exactly the kind of gangster film an 80-year-old would make. Somber, reflective. It's actually a stripped-out antithesis of Goodfellas. It's what Unforgiven is to The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. Even the opening scene, the long take in the old people's home. Take a look at this complaint I saw online. Underwhelming is what I think of it. It has all the trademarks of a Scorsese movie, but it's not backed by a very interesting script. Take the initial scene, the usual steady camera shot with no cuts. We followed the camera around for a big reveal, and where does it land us? To a sitting old man. It's like Netflix told Scorsese what they wanted without caring if it fitted or not, and Scorsese took the big check and complied. But that's the point! Scorsese has said that the scene is a deliberate riff off the famous Copacabana shot in Goodfellas. What the complainers said about it is exactly what it set out to achieve. The movie is not made by the man who made Goodfellas. That man retired after The Wolf of Wall Street. This is made by the guy who made Silence, who made Killers of the Flower Moon recently, whose next film is a Jesus biopic. The point being is that Scorsese has evolved and he's in a different place now to where he was 30 years ago, and it shows in his movies, his characters and themes he explores in his films.